Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and a big good morning, afternoon, or evening to everyone joining me live this morning, or whatever it is, on Behance, including we've got Jason, and Lena, and Anna, and Kita, and Pokehan, love that name, Samuel, and I saw Anissa in there, Anzi. If you are joining me live, we got Vladair as well and Gary. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm streaming live from Los Angeles this week. I'm all over the place. Last week I was in lovely San Francisco, back in Los Angeles this week, and I hope you're all doing well and ready to tackle day number 6 of the XD Daily Creative Challenge. We've got some more people coming in here, including Ginger and Destiny and Ramona's and Claude. Hey Claude, what's up? One of our awesome Adobe Spark. He's also been on Adobe Live. Cool guy. Sam, awesome moderator. So big hello to everyone joining us here on Behance. So what are we going to be tackling today? Let me hop over to my screen right over here. This is the Daily Creative Challenge landing page, behance.net/daily creative challenge. And there was a big blue register button at the top, but because we're almost at the end of our challenge, we're in week number 2, it's now just a join us on Discord button, which is still great. And we'll definitely keep you up to date when new challenges do arise, and more challenges are definitely coming. So every single day you're going to receive a challenge at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, and then you're going to join me at 11:30 right now. Somewhat bright and early, or if you're in India, it's midnight. And I know a lot of people are joining me from India right now. And thank you for tuning in at midnight, because, I'm asleep by 9 o'clock. I don't know how you're awake that late, but thank you. And they're going to share your work using the keyword XD Daily Challenge on Behance, so we can jump in there, find it, and showcase some of your awesome stuff right here live on air. And then you have until next Monday to complete all the challenges. But as I mention every single time, it's not a competition. So if you need a few extra days to really polish that stuff up and get it ready to kind of maybe put into the eyes of prospective clients, definitely take your time and, make it awesome. Down here, you can grab XD completely for free. You can join us on Discord. And then here's all the challenges. So we started last Tuesday designing a splash screen and landing page for this movies application. And we went to a login experience, then a home screen, hamburger menu, so delicious. We browsed for movies, and then we're tackling a video player today. And this is going to be fun because a video player is not the most exciting element, but when you start using components that were just released last week, you can do a lot with them. You can make them larger, smaller, you can override components. So I'm going to try to cram in as many component-based tips and tricks into this stream as I possibly can. And we've got Senhal from India. So again, thank you for joining me. Kristen from Austin, Larissa from Brazil, and Lana from that place I couldn't pronounce yesterday, but apparently it's in New York. Brian from Nairobi. Awesome. Michael from Australia. What time is it in Australia? It must be tomorrow. That's crazy. Awesome. Time changes are strange. So before I jump in today's challenge, I want to showcase 2 challenges that came in over the last 2 days. This one is from Nisha, and let me go ahead and play this video and just kind of show you where Nisha is at in the progress. Here she did incorporate the browse movie experience, and let me just go back because I thought that was a really cool, look at this. That was really cool. I love that little interaction, going from a card view to a little bit of a larger card view, and then clicking on it to kind of show more details about that movie. I thought that was kind of cool. Debbie's asking if I'm feeling better. I am slowly getting better. Every day, there's definitely an improvement, so almost there. And then this one is from Danning. Oh, Michael, it's 4:30 a.m. in Australia. What are you doing watching me? If it was 4:30, I would not be watching me at 4:30. This one's from Danning. And if I go ahead, I can click through this prototype. There's a back button. I can click on an individual card to see more details about that movie. I can favorite it. And let me zoom in here because there's a really cool interaction that he created right here, where the heart kind of fills up really nicely. It's super cool. Now, just a quick note about that. Currently, the way auto animate works is, let me go back for a second and go here. And right now, you would have to have different artboards, separate artboards for each state, right, to fill this heart up. But with components, components are going to lead to states, like actual states, and you'll be able to animate between those states. We're going to be releasing that later this year. So you won't have to have separate massive artboards for a little tiny interaction like this. So we're working on some really cool stuff behind the scenes that I think all of you are going to be really excited about, including more cool things with components and, more, I can't reveal too much, but yeah. Cars is asking, how do I zoom in? So it's an accessibility option on the Mac. If I hold down Control and scroll, I can zoom in and out. All right, so let's hop over to Adobe XD and let's get designing. So here's where we're at so far. We've got this template that we've been working on, and if you do want to download my reference file every single day, there is a link right in Adobe XD in this template. You can go to Dropbox, you can download my files, and a few hours after every stream, I do upload that day's file. And here we are. Let me go ahead and turn off my notifications so no one bothers me. And here we are. So we started with a splash screen last week, and let me go ahead and play this. We've got the splash screen with a little bit of a loading animation, which transitions into a login experience. And then that transitions into a home screen where we can swipe, and I added a little bit of a parallax effect with a time transition, so it goes like that. And then I didn't hook up the individual card, but yesterday we tackled the browse movie experience, and that allowed us to expand a movie to see more details about it. You can play it down here, and of course many of you went crazy with this and added a lot more elements than I did, but it's been a fun experience so far. But today we want to actually tackle the video player experience. Now, I could go ahead and just duplicate an artboard and start designing the video player on one of these artboards, right? But sometimes you just want to design a little bit larger or a little bit smaller, whatever it might be. So I'm going to just design on my pasteboard, or I can even create a separate artboard just for the video experience, right? And this is going to really show off components. It's going to allow us to design this larger experience and then just shrink it down to fit whatever screen size that we want using the instances. So I have this artboard here, and of course, I'm going to name this video. Whoops, I can't spell again. Video. Oh. And of course, you're free to design it directly on an artboard or, separate, whatever you might want. But here we go. Brian's asking, not to hate or anything, but why is every prototype on an iPhone 10? For me, it's just because I have an iPhone, right? So it's a lot easier to plug in my iPhone and just see it, and it just works. It looks fine. But if you want to design for Android, or if you want to design for a desktop experience, you're more than welcome to do that. But I'm just more familiar with the iPhone 10 experience, so it's a little bit easier for me to design that way. All right, so we need a few things for a video player. Obviously, we need the actual video, right? So I'm going to grab my rectangle and simply draw one out. Now, video players are typically 16 by 9. So what you could do is, let's say in the dimensions over here, I could just do 1280, 720, right? And that's obviously way too large. But if I hold down Shift, I can constrain it so it's a little bit smaller, just to ensure that I have a nice 16 by 9 ratio, right? So I've got this video player, or at least the image for the video player. And if I hop over to Finder, I can just grab one of these images. Maybe, How to Train Your Dragon. I haven't seen that yet, but it looks cute. Pop that in there, and now we've got the kind of title card for our video player, right? So we need a few extra elements. We need a play button, we need a scrubber at the bottom, we need some maybe time codes, a sound bar, whatever it might be, so we can adjust it, right? So we're gonna start with a play button. We're gonna keep things pretty simple. I'm gonna grab my ellipse tool over to the left and simply draw one out. I'm gonna hold down my Shift key to make sure it's a perfect circle, just like that. Pop it in the center. And if I want to make sure it's in the center of this individual card, I can select the circle just like I have now, hold down Shift, select the card in the background as well, and then right up here at the top, I can press the Align Center, which is this one, or I guess, yeah, Align Center, and then also Align Center vertically. And that'll make sure that that layer above the card is placed in the center of the other one selected. Super cool. So I'm gonna turn off the border for now on this layer. Well, I guess I turned it on the other one too. There we go. Perfect. And now we need a play button in the middle. Now, previously I would probably just go over to an icon manager and grab a play button, but now we actually have the Polygon Tool. Super cool, super helpful, basic, but it works, right? So I'll just drag one out, rotate this until it's that way, Move that in the center, maybe make it a little bit smaller. Then I can also round out the corners a little bit. So we've got this little handle on the inside. So we've got live corners, make it a little bit rounder. And then make sure it's nicely positioned. There we go. Now, what if I wanted, I can, there's a few options I can have. I can, make this white and then make the background of this possibly a little bit darker maybe. I can also add a background blur. As if you watch his streams, you know I'm a big fan of background blurs. We can also subtract the play button from the actual circle. So again, if I select both of these layers, right here at the top, I can press the subtract button and it's going to subtract and basically punch a hole in that circle. But because the background is, who knows what will be on the background, there could be a lot of different elements that might blend in. I'm going to actually undo that and just leave it nice and just like this. And now maybe just to give a little bit of a different flair to this button, I'm gonna maybe add a little bit of a border on the outside of the shape, make it white, and then decrease the opacity a touch, and then really increase that just like that. Perfect. All right, we've got our play button now. Things are looking pretty good. We might want to turn this into a component so we can use it throughout various artboards. So in my assets panel, I'm gonna make sure to select all these components or all these layers, and then press the plus button beside components. And now we have play button. Perfect. All right, the next one we want at the very bottom, we might want some sort of a scrubber to show us where we are in this video. So I'm gonna grab my line tool at the left and and just drag one out across the artboard, just like this, right? I'll make it white for now. I'll make the line nice and thick, just like that. Yeah, Letitia, there are Pathfinder resources. They're not called Pathfinder in XD. I believe they're called just Boolean tools. But yeah, right up here at the top, there's add, subtract, intersect, all that fun stuff. And I might be actually showing some of that more a little bit later in the stream if we have time. I'm also going to round out the corners of this line. And now we have our play button, or a little scrubber. But of course, we want to indicate what has been played and what has not. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to duplicate this line, Command and Control D, and then drag this duplicate back over here to the left. Hey Huxel, welcome. I am doing great. Thank you for asking. And I'll change the color to, let's say, you know what? Let's go for a reddish pink. That looks pretty nice right there. And then we might want another ellipse as a little bit of a scrubber. Like that, and turn off the border. Perfect. Now we've got the scrubber in place, we might also want to turn this into a component. So I'm going to select again all these elements, Command and Control K to turn them into a component, and just name this scrubber. Perfect. So now we're kind of getting somewhere, right? We can also start incorporating additional icons inside of our video player. We might want a full screen icon, so we can press on that and it goes full screen, right? So let me show you how that could be created using the Pathfinder tools or the Boolean tools. I'm going to drag out a rectangle just like this, and I'm going to duplicate this rectangle, Command and Control D, and make it a little bit smaller, right? And then I'll also duplicate this again, move this up, so we have a little bit of a break in the center, duplicate it, and then rotate. All right, so now we got this crazy looking shape. Well, all we have to do is select all these layers, right? And go up to the top and press that same subtract button I showed you a little bit earlier with the play button, and that will subtract all the shapes on top of the one in the background and give us a really nice looking icon that we can use for a full screen interaction, right? So I can just grab this, drag it in here, make this a little bit smaller, pop that right about there. And if I needed to, if I want to make it a little bit thicker, or if I want to adjust any of the subtractions, I can just double click, select the shape I want to adjust, and just maybe move that inwards a little bit. Perfect, that looks good. However, we are noticing that because the image in the background is a little bit lighter and the icon's also light, we're getting a little bit of a weird, it's kind of blending in a little bit. So what we might want to do is actually add some sort of a gradient to kind of separate the bottom elements from the image. So I'm going to select the image in the background and simply duplicate it. And that will allow me to change the fill of that image. So I'm going to press the fill over to the left, or to the right, other left, and set a linear gradient. Linear gradient. There we go. The top one is going to be black, but it's going to be 0% opacity. And the bottom one is also going to be black. And I can just grab this shape, move it downwards a little bit, And now we have a nice separation of all the elements in the foreground from the image in the background. All right, someone's asking, do you invent these solutions on the fly? No, I usually wait until the challenge is announced every morning, and then I come up with something. So I'm kind of designing alongside all of you. But some of them are on the fly. So once that's done, we could also add a few more elements. We might want a sound bar, for example. And if I scroll over, let me zoom out. And I scroll in here, we've got a little bit of a sound icon, this icon right here. I can copy that and zoom back in over here and simply paste it. Make it a little bit smaller and pop it right beside the lovely full screen icon, right? Just like that. And I might want to select all these elements and just move them over a touch so everything's kind of in the center. That looks pretty good. All right. And then we might want to also add a little bit of interaction where it shows what the actual volume is, or if you want to change the volume, you can do that as well, right? So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool one more time, drag something up just like this. We'll have a vertical interaction instead of horizontal because there's probably not enough room going left to right in this case. Maybe I'll round out the corners, turn off the border, lovely. And then duplicate one more time, and just like we did for the scrubber at the bottom, what I can do is I can just use my eyedropper tool, sample this color, and it's going to apply it right there. I'm going to make both of these a little bit thinner, just like that. And maybe, you know what, maybe I'll apply a background blur to this, just so it separates it a little bit more. Maybe darken it just a touch. There we go. That way, when, the image in the background does move around a little bit, you're going to notice, it kind of interacts, and it never really fully blends in with the background, which is nice. Perfect. And I might want to turn both of these into a component, so Command or Control K one more time, and this will be soundbar or sound slider, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you. All right, so we're looking good. We can move that into place. We've got our full screen icon over there. We might also want some sort of an indicator as to where we are in the actual movie. So we're going to grab my text tool, shortcut key T, and this will be, let's say, maybe we'll start at 0 seconds. Drop this down a little bit and make sure it lines up really nicely with this. Perfect. And we might want one more, and this will be, let's say, how long is this movie? 1 hour and, 25 minutes? Sure, it sounds good. And we'll move this all the way over here to the right. And of course, at this point, things are kind of overlapping, so we're just going to grab some of these elements, grab that one, grab this one, and this, and just move it over. Make sure everything lines up, and we've got these smart guides and smart paddings that kind of help us through the process. And then one more time, I will go ahead and select all these elements, make sure that they are centered in the middle of the document, and those smart guides are helping me really nicely. And then because I have responsive resize turned on, if I want things a little bit more spaced out, I can just do that, move things over a little bit, make it larger, or I can just jump in here and manually move things just a touch, right? Space these out. Look at that. Responsive resize is super cool. All right, move that over a little bit. Perfect. And then move this over. And it's all about finessing everything into place to make sure everything lines up really nicely. And if you're like me, things just have to line up perfectly. There we go. That is William, you're probably right. That's 1:25. So I should probably do, is it this? I don't know how to do I think it's that, right? It might be. Yeah, I got it. There we go. I think it's that, right? Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But now I have to make sure, I might want to make the scrubber a little bit smaller. And because it's a component, because components can be resizable, I can just resize the scrubber inwards. And if I have to make changes, I can just jump in here and make changes. Perfect. All right, let me move this back into place. Everything snaps really nicely. Did I get it? Yes, I got it right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Select these and this and the scrubber, this. Okay. So now that we have kind of all of our elements looking really nice, we've got our movie player, we've got the image in the background, we have the play button, which we've turned into a component. Excuse me. We've got our scrubber at the bottom. We've got our time We've got our full screen icon, soundbar, and that sort of thing. We want to actually turn this entire thing into a component so we can use I'm dying on you. So we can use throughout various artboards, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm simply going to select all the elements that make up this component, or this will be component. You can also make sure to select them all in your layers panel as well. And then you can either right click on the layer or the groups of layers and then make component, or you can go back into the assets panel. You can use Command and Control K, whatever it might be. And now the whole thing is a component. And within this component, there are also other components, which really will help you keep everything up to date, even if you're using, let's say, the play button on a different interaction that's not, or a different element that's not within a video player. So now that we have this video player set up, if we hop over to our assets panel, here it is right there. I'm going to name this video player just so I know. Boop, there we go. That's for you, Tim. And now we can actually start incorporating this video player into our various screens. So let me go ahead and duplicate this artboard over to the right. And I may want, let's go ahead and replace this image. Or you know what, I can go ahead and just grab this image here, drag it on top. This will be how to train your dragon. And I did, I didn't do title case. So what I can do is just go over here. We've got these new icons and we've got title case. Fancy. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now that that's done, we need a video player, right? We might want one right at the top so someone can very quickly play that video. All you have to do is drag the component onto this artboard. Now, obviously, it's going to be big, right? But because components are overrideable and it works really nicely with responsive resize, I can just grab it and, and make it smaller. Now, of course, you're noticing a few things didn't transform properly, right? The scrubber, for example, didn't transform properly. So we can either jump in there and manually override it, or what we can do is inside of the master component, or even in the instance, we'll grab that element and we'll make sure over here that fixed width and fixed height is not, we might want fixed height turned on, but we don't want fixed width. That will allow it to kind of, shrink and expand as we're working on the component. So if I jump in here, you'll notice now it basically pushed it to all the other instances. If we had many of them, it would push to all of them. So now I can grab this component and shrink it down. Now it's doing it, but it's not doing it that well, right? So we want to make sure that all the constraints are really set up nicely. Make sure fixed width, perfect, okay. And we might not want it to be constrained over to the right. So I'll make sure that that is turned off. That looks like it is. Turn that off. So it's only constrained to the left. And let's see if that resizes a little bit better. Sort of. But at this case, I can just jump in here, make this smaller, make this smaller, and components are overrideable. And just move this over into place. There we go. So now that we have a much smaller video on our screen, obviously this doesn't look very nice, so we might want to maybe just change it to a white color, right? Maybe we'll get rid of that and we'll just start altering some of these things. And even though some of these are components, we can easily just jump in here and make those changes. So grab these, change that to black, change this to black. Maybe the play button will be, instead we'll have, make it this color. And we'll make the text and the play button, we'll make that white, just like that. And now we can grab all these things, move it up into place. That looks good. And of course, probably under here, there would be more information about the movie. And just to kind of very quickly show you what that might look like, you might want this. Change the color to black. I can't spell, but that's fine. But if you go to the plugins menu, we have a Lorem Ipsum plugin, and we just fill it with placeholder text just for now. There you go. There's some more information about the awesome movie. So there's your video player. You can definitely have a lot of fun with this. Turn it into a component, use it on multiple screens. You can animate it, that sort of thing. But that's going to be just about it for me today. Stick around. Terry's coming up in just a few minutes with the Photography Daily Creative Challenge, and I'll be back tomorrow morning at 11:30 with day number 7 of the XD challenge. I'll see you all later.